Hello and welcome in to Betting Life's college football pregame betting show. I am your host, Thor Nystrom, joined as always by NBC Sports' Eric Froton and the coach, Gene Clemons. Over the next 90 minutes, we're going to be going over our best bets, our player props. We're going to be bringing on Mike Bainbridge at the end of the show for 30 minutes to talk about DFS. And we also will be answering all of your audience questions. So start getting them in the chat. We will get to them as we go. Please click the like button if you're watching us on YouTube, or share the link if you're watching on Twitter. It helps us get the word out there. We really appreciate that. We have a lot to get to, and we'll get to it in a second. But our co-host, Eric Froton, live in Las Vegas right now, was at Boise State UNLV last night. We had a fun game on Friday evening. Froton, how was what was your observations from field level of that one?
Yeah, well, first off, Ashton Genty's arms are just a sight to behold. The guy's a running back. He's 205 pounds, 210, whatever it might be. And he has absolutely pipes that are offensive lineman worthy. But that being said, he gets 36 touches, and you can see him by the end of the game. He can barely stand up, okay? But he's grinding out every single carry. Just a workman-like performance for Genty. But I have a fun little anecdote from the game that I told you about, Thor. I've been saving. We haven't even talked about this, but I was coming out of the media room getting ready to walk to the field over there at Allegiant Stadium, and as I walk out, it's just me. And there's a security guy who just sort of gives me the, hey, hold up one moment. You can't cross right now. Just give it a second. He's like, I'm like, oh, okay. He's like, yeah, presidential envoy. I'm like, presidential envoy? So I'm like, all right, let's see what this entails. So I sit tight and around the corner, and you understand, you're underneath a stadium. I see a black SUV coming around. I'm like, what is there a car doing here? So, it starts coming around. I see the Raiders license plate. And as it's pulling up, it's literally, there's nobody else but just me and the security guard they're anywhere near this place right now. Nobody. So as this SUV is driving by, I see the window start to roll down, comes down all the way. And for some reason, the owner of the Las Vegas Raiders, Mark Davis, rolls down the window, waves to me. He's like, oh, hey, how you doing? You enjoying the game? I'm just like, hi, Mr. Davis. Yes, sir. Thank you. Having a great time. Where am I? Is there a camera on right now? So, he's driving by. I'm just like, oh, that was cool. As soon as he goes by, the security guard turns, looks at me, and goes, do you know him or something? No. He goes, I've been working here since this place opened. I've never seen him roll down the window when he's leaving or entering this place to talk to anybody. Because you don't know him? I'm like, dude, I don't know Mark Davis.
Froton, okay. you missed a golden opportunity there when the guy asked you if you knew Davis. You should have been like, just deadpan. Yeah, I'm his barber.
Oh, yes. Yes. Well, anybody who looks at my hair knows that. Anybody knows that it looks at my hair knows that I would have a much higher standard than Mr. Davis's haircut. No offense. I mean, my man Gene Clemons, dude, what a phenomenal set of hair you guys do. Now I want to leave you out of this conversation.
Well, it's a labor of love up here. We'll just say that.
So yeah,
thank you for humoring me with my little anecdote from the game.
No, you got to see Mark Davis. That's huge. The boys, for those that didn't see it, Boise State comes back there 29-24 win over UNLV, and is now going to be bolstered in the market as the G5's favorite to make the college football playoff. But let's get into the games today. We have some fun ones. Beginning noon kickoff in East Rutherford, Notre Dame now a 14-point favorite over Navy. This thing is 12.5. Got to 13. We got to the 13.5. We have hit the 14-point threshold against Navy in this neutral site game. Undefeated Navy. This is going to be a fun one. Gene, how do you see this game playing out?
Yeah, this is an interesting game because Notre Dame has really kind of gotten their season on track since that debacle versus Northern Illinois early in the year. But this Navy team's good. I've been out here touting the the service academy stimulus package all year, and for good reasons, because when service academies are good, when they have seniors, when they're clicking on all cylinders, they run at a tempo that is hard for most to be able to stay with, especially when you only get a week, maybe two, to get prepared for it. So I think Navy's a live dog in this game. I'm not even going to lie to you. I'm not telling people to go out there and throw your house payment on Navy, but Navy's a live dog in this. I don't feel good about Notre Dame covering this 14. I know it's sexy just to throw the money on it, but neutral site, I don't know. Like, for me, this is one of those ones that I'm thinking Navy has a really good chance of covering, and maybe later on in the proceedings, we might hear from Navy again in this game right now, because I got to get my people paid. The stimulus still lives, even though Army is on a break. So stay tuned.
I love it. People were wondering if the military stimulus package is going to extend to Notre Dame weekend for Navy. So love to hear it. Froton, you look at this game like from the perspective of the props. Is there anything in here that you think is playable?
Well, as we know, when it comes to how our nation is run, and Gene knows this, there is never any shortage of funding from the military, and that is just the case as well on this particular telecast here. Thank you, Gene, for that. When it comes to this game from a prop perspective, I guess we'll look like, first off, you mentioned 14. I've seen some 14 and a halves out there. So we're even climbing over the hook right now. It just keeps going on. I mean, that's almost a field goal we're talking about moving. And we wrote this up, yesterday? So we've seen, go and shop that for yourselves. And that being said, from a prop perspective, these are two teams that like to run the ball. I would say more than just like. It is their modus operandi. When I'm looking at this, though, you got Notre Dame. Obviously, I expect to see quite a few carries out of the quarterback there, Mr. Leonard. But I'm looking at the running backs here a little more so. From a wide receiver perspective, you got Greathouse, you got Collins, you got Eli Heidenreich. Those are the only real receiving options we have. I have a hard time kind of sussing out how much Notre Dame will want to throw. If I were the Irish, I would want to use that advantage they have on the line. They've been running extremely well, and try to lean on this smaller front for Navy and control that game, not let them get rolling. I think we see Jeremiah Love early and often here as part of that strategy. While the rushing is appealing, I'm going a different angle here. He's currently listed on FanDuel at 13.5 receiving yards. Over this season, first off, he's caught 15 passes on 18 targets through 7 games for 149 yards over the course of the past 5, right? 3 catches for 57 last week against Georgia Tech. He caught a pass for 25 against Stanford, 5 passes for 27 against Louisville, 2 catches for 18 against Purdue. He has smashed this receiving over in 6 of 7 games. And I would think against Navy, where you will want to have a more running back focused approach, you're not going to want to make any mistakes or put the ball in harm. I think at 13.5, this is a pretty easy play for Jeremiah Love, who should get plenty of work against the midshipmen.
Yeah, that's a good angle. Love last 3 games, 3 for 57 receptions against Georgia Tech, 1 for 25 against Stanford. There's a 5 for 27 and a touchdown against Louisville. That's a pretty good angle right there. This game, you're at the 14. I would lean with Gene as well on Navy. Just what we've seen of both these teams would lead you to that, right? Like, Navy has been so good this season. And obviously, this is the best team that they're going to play, but they have shown that they can put points on the board, if nothing else. And then the Notre Dame side, they have the propensity to play teams close. And who is Notre Dame beaten, right? I mean, like the A&M game that was a long, long time ago. Ever since then, it was beating Louisville by a touchdown when you were outgained by 150 yards. This one, Froton, you hit on it with the run ethos. On the side, I would lean towards taking those points, especially 14 and a half. I also like the under for those reasons. Notre Dame is not going to allow Navy to put up the bunches of points like they have in some of these recent games. And I think it's a bit more, but I think it's a bit more competitive. Run. That clock is constantly going to be running. And Froton, to your point, the passing, I think there's going to be more checkdowns, right? Notre Dame, that's just what they do anyway. They're one of the least explosive passing attacks in America. They're not going to get the explosive scores. Another data point for why I don't know that you can trust them to lay 2 touchdowns and change on the, in a neutral site game here. So yeah, for me, it would be the under, and it would be Navy in that one. But I like that love angle for a ton. Moving to our next one, another noon kickoff here, Eastern. Indiana hosting Washington. This is the second time in history that College Game Day has gone to Bloomington, undefeated Indiana here. Can they continue that? The line on this one has been holding pretty steady at 6.5 all week. I think we're still there. Let me see. Yeah, we're still at 6. I'm sorry. A couple of books.
5.5. I've got it on a couple.
I've seen it from 5 to 6.5. We're seeing a range in the market. 5 to 6.5. You got a point and a half. Shop it.
There's still, like, at FanDuel, it's still 6.5. But yeah, let's see, MGM, ESPN Bet, it's 5.5. Caesars, it's 5.5. So, somewhere in there, 5.5 to 6.5. Gene, this one, Indiana, they've been playing so well with Cignetti year one. Rourke, their starting quarterback, is out with a thumb injury in this one. So you bring in Taven Jackson, former 4-star recruit for Josh Heupel at Tennessee. We saw, and he had transferred to Indiana before. He started a few games last year for Tom Allen on that terrible team. This year, we've only seen him just a bit. Last week, you got to see him the whole second half against Nebraska. They did outscore Nebraska. Indiana did 28-0 in that second half. With Jackson in at quarterback here, do you think that Indiana can cover this 5.5 to 6.5 number against Washington?
Yeah, you can put it on the board for sure. I think Indiana covers this. I think what we saw last week was Cignetti let people know, oh, this isn't just like we showed up and brought some groceries of our own, and that's why we're good immediately. This is going to be around for a while. Like, when he came in, I was like, oh, that's what the future looks like. They're going to be just fine over there in Bloomington. And as I've said every week, and I'll say it again, in Cignetti we trust, because what he does with balancing out his offense, passing and running, it doesn't give you an opportunity to lean on anything. And they're just taking what people give them, and then every time they try to flip, they just go and do the other thing. You try to overcompensate for them passing, they'll just run it down your throat. You try to overcompensate for them running, they'll just pass it on you. And it's not, I say it's an egoless type of offense, and that's the best type of offense, when nobody is out here just trying to get theirs. Everybody's just waiting for their opportunity, and when they get their opportunity, they're taking advantage of it. And that defense has been much better than I thought it would be coming into this year. That has been the biggest difference on why they're undefeated, and that's probably why they'll get the job done today.
It's a great point that Gene makes, Froton, about it's not a one-man offense here, and they use so many different guys. It's more like hockey lines or a basketball team with how many guys that they use on offense. And you bring in Jackson. They like Jackson. The program likes Jackson. I mean, like, the public comments that Cignetti has made about him is like, you see all these wild plays in practice, and it's just the consistency of, like, the timing in that offense that they've tried to improve him on. So it's you probably get more peaks and valleys, but the high end plays, the rushing there with Jackson, probably a little bit better than Rourke. But how many mistakes will he get in this game? How do you see this game, and are there any props here that you're looking at?
Yeah, in terms of this game, I think what I'm most focused on is the dynamic between Indiana's passing offense and Washington's pass defense. It's the classic case of the irresistible force versus the immovable object, with Indiana number 1 in passing success rate, number 3 in EPA per dropback, and completing 20-plus explosive passes, 20-plus yard explosive passes, 24.3% of the time. 1 out of every 4 passes is going for 20-plus. It's just a ruthlessly efficient offense. But as we know, Washington, and we've talked about it before, we'll talk about it again, one of the absolute apex elite pass defenses in the country, allowing a 47.5% completion rate. That's number one in the country. 32.5% success rate. That's fifth. And as we discussed, Taven Jackson comes in last game, threw 8 passes in a 56-7 blowout in Nebraska in relief of Nathan Rourke. Completed 7 of them. The only one he didn't complete was a perfect strike into the hands of Miles Price, crossing the formation, just a straight drop. But he looked comfortable in the offense. They do the Skinny thing where the quarterback, so that to disrupt the timing of the rush, he literally just claps 6 to 9 times every time out there. So like you never know which clap to key on. And it just really stifles the ability of the defense to really pin back their ears. What I like as a prop, I love this one. I was considering putting in a best bet. Will it be a secondary one? Miles Cross, wide receiver, Indiana, has been a demon the past 5 weeks. All right. So the first 2 weeks, Florida International and against an FCS team, he catches just 1 pass, 1 target in those first 2 games. Didn't even get a second target in that second game. But since UCLA in week 3, you've seen Cross just absolutely take over one of those slot roles. He was splitting time with EJ Williams, former Clemson transfer. EJ Williams has hit the portal. He is night. The reason why is because Cross, these past 5 games, has just taken over the entire spot. He's taken the starting spot. He's marginalized Williams to the point where like he's barely even getting on the field. Against UCLA, 6 out of 7 for 90 and a touch. Following game against UNC Charlotte, 5 out of 5. Maryland, 1 for 18. But then the last 2 games, Northwestern, 4 for 24. Nebraska, 7 of 7 for 65 yards and a touch. He has caught at least 4 passes in 4 out of the last 5 games. For some reason, I mean, to brace yourself, for some reason, FanDuel has placed Miles Cross at over 2.5 receptions for plus 122 money. They are paying you to take Miles Cross's over receptions. He smashed it 4 out of the past 5 games. He hasn't even hit 3. He's hit 4 out of the past 5 games. You're going to give us 2.5 with plus money? Oh, I'm feeling it, boys. I'm feeling it.
I love that. Yeah, he's been getting peppered with targets. That's a good angle there.
He's the slot.
Yeah, the one that, especially with the receptions, because I don't know if the Taven Jackson passing number was like what, 218 somewhere in there. Yeah, that I think I would lean under on that one. Washington, you mentioned some of the metrics. Washington's pass defense is elite. That being, and you have the backup quarterback. That being said, I like Indiana in this game, and I think I don't want to argue that it's good that you're using Jackson as opposed to Rourke, but I think you have a little bit of ambush factor here, and the offense, the way you're incentivized to lean it the other way, you go directly away from the strength of Washington's defense. Decidedly, the pass defense, one of the best in America, legitimately. You go away from that and you become more run heavy right into a bad run defense. Washington has had issues stopping the run for multiple years now. It is still an issue. Indiana's rushing offense is really, really good. Number 3 success rate, number 19 EPA per rush. They're top 20 in every metric. You look down on our little sheet. They're the dark green in every single one. That rushing offense good. Ellison, Lawton. They have a couple more guys that Black comes in sometimes, that they bring in. And now you have Taven Jackson, who is a decidedly better runner than Rourke is. You give that another element. As long as we can avoid some mistakes there from Jackson, and I don't expect Cignetti to put him into situations where he is throwing into the teeth of that Washington secondary too much. It'll be a numbers advantage thing. I like Indiana in this game. I'll lay the points. I have it at 6.5. The number going down to 5.5. Certainly, I would lay that too. And in the prop game here, like I said, I do like the Froton, the crossover, especially in reception. You can get that 2.5. I would lean the under on Jackson passing yards though, because the way that I see it is neutral game script. You're leaning more run heavy as is for the Hoosiers, and then they pull out to the lead there. And you can do that just attacking that run defense of Washington. And Indiana's defense has improved, as Gene mentioned as well. Then I think, all of a sudden you get a little bit of margin there. And it's just run. Justice Ellison, I love his over 56.5 rushing yards, the RB1A there. And then Tyson Lawton, I got his number at 40.5. The over.
He's steamed since then.
That has spiked. So those, and I would go over on both those still. Lawton is up to, I saw
48,
it.
49 and a half. 48 on FanDuel, 49.5 on Caesars is where it's currently trading.
I am still happy to go over on both those numbers. Obviously, so you look at both their numbers. Justice Ellison to this point in the season averaging 73.4 yards per game rushing on 7 yards a carry, and they face some tougher run defenses than this crappy Washington run defense. And then Lawton, he's averaging 56.1 yards per game rushing, 5.2 yards per carry. Lawton has. I thought this was interesting. Lawton has carried the ball 10 times or more in all 4 games that Indiana did not win by 38 or more points. And while I like Indiana in this game, I don't think they're going to beat Washington by 40 points. When Indiana is just flogging a team, that's where you really get the waves of guys coming in. It goes from, we shift out the one for the other to all of a sudden it's everyone, you get deep into the bench there and that sort of stuff. But as long as the game script is anywhere close, both Lawton and Ellison get their carries, and we have seen opponents gouge the Washington run defense for yards. So I like the overs there. And the I like the cross one as well. Moving on, and guys, everyone, thank you for joining us again this week for another glorious week of college football. Type your questions into the box if you're on YouTube. I don't think you can do it if you're watching us on Twitter, but the chat box beneath us on YouTube. Get your questions in. After this game, we're going to open the mailbag for the first time. Always love to see the games that you guys are thinking about, and if you have any questions on the card. So type those questions in. We'll get to them in a second. Last game we wanted to talk about in this first segment, Missouri, the very inconsistent Missouri Tigers traveling to another inconsistent team. They've been better though. Alabama, this line has gone up to 17 as of this morning. And frankly, it makes a little bit of sense with Brady Cook out for this game. Drew Pine is starting this game.
Drew Pine.
What a journey for Drew Pine. It was a couple years ago, he was the injury replacement at Notre Dame. And then it was last year did he win the starting job out of camp for Dillingham at Arizona State, or did he come in?
I think
he came in because it was Rashada.
Yeah.
Rashada. And then Pine got injured too, because they had this biblical plague of injuries on Arizona State. And for those of you that thought Drew Pine had moved on from college and was now an accountant or something, get ready for some fun today. He is in Tuscaloosa trying to pull off the upset. Missouri's offense has been wildly inconsistent, and to the point where you can't week by week figure out what's going on there. Of course, their running game has come down, but how do you not get Luther Burden more involved? We talked about the Luther Burden usage on like 3 different shows this year. Can Drew Pine figure out how to shuttle the ball within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage to Luther Burden? We will find that out. But Gene, with this line going up to Alabama minus 17, what side do you like in this one?
I mean, the fact that the line has moved up, what a point and a half, maybe 2 points at this point, tells me that a lot of people who know how to spend their money think Alabama is going to wax Missouri today. I think it's a bad place for Missouri to be. By the way, the Drew Pine thing just lets you know, this is the new era of college football. A lot of people talk about the other positions, but quarterback is the position. And it always seems to be, by the way, where they always take advantage of whatever loopholes there are in the system. Quarterback is the place that it happens. Drew Pine, like you said, should be an accountant somewhere. Should be, like starting up a hedge fund or whatever it might be. Instead, he's still playing college football, and that's going to be the same. But in these cases, I think a lot of these teams have messed themselves up because they keep going for these older, experienced guys that just have not really been that good ever anywhere. So it's like, what are you going to do? Like, what are you going to do here? I'm going to take the team with the talent that's probably going to play on Sundays. 17 is some points in a game where a SEC game especially, but like the truth is that Missouri could play Alabama close, or they could get blown out by 35. That's how inconsistent they've been this year. It was definitely something I wasn't expecting to see out of the team. I think it was 3 or 4 weeks ago that I said on here that they knew who they were, and that was how they were able to. And then they went out and got waxed by Texas A&M, I think, or something like that. I don't know. It's been crazy watching them play. I'll take Alabama because I think they're going to try to right the ship. And not only do they have to right the ship, but they have to win in style now. They can't just beat teams. They've got to beat teams and do it with some style. So I'll take Alabama. I'll lay the 17 points, even though 17 points is a lot of points to be given up in an SEC game.
For sure. Froton, this Missouri passing offense, which is certainly going to be needed, even with Drew Pine taking over today to stay within 17 or try to put a scare into Alabama. Even with the starting quarterback, 69th in success rate, 73rd in yards per dropback, there was no explosive element whatsoever, 127th in passing exposure for Missouri. Now you go from the veteran starter in Cook to, well, I suppose he's a veteran in Pine. He's a bit limited. If we had a throwing competition, the three of us and Drew Pine, that's one that I think that our group might be able to win against an FBS quarterback. Do you think that Missouri can stay within this line? And is there any props that you like in this game, in a game that we could get a wonky game script here if Alabama does indeed drop the hammer?
Yeah, well, I have some unfortunate news for everyone. We have not received a Drew Pine line to this point. I
actually found one.
Oh, you do? Where are we at with Drew Pine?
Underdog dropped him. It's like the weird ones they do where it's not like the full allotment. But
I know.
Froton, let's do some live prop handicapping on the show right now. I'm going to toss the number at you, and you give us over or under, okay? Drew Pine, first quarter passing yards in Tuscaloosa
first quarter.
today. First quarter, just the first quarter. Okay. 44.5.
Whoa. 44.5?
Yeah.
You're going to come out as Missouri, right?
Come out firing, baby.
Just slinging it with Drew Pine. Yes. Oh, they're dealing with Drew Pine. We don't have Nate Noel out there. So like they have Marcus Carroll, who will be starting at running back. I think that's
Marcus Christmas Carroll.
Yeah. I think you have to, as a respectable college football prop, better take the under on 44.5 first quarter passing yard. I think that's astounding. But beyond that, my apologies for not putting that on my board. But yes, please do.
Yeah.
I have another lean here, and it's the other quarterback. It's Jalen Milroe. Now, with Milroe, what we've seen during the course of the season is he's very selective, Kalen DeBoer, when it comes to unleashing him, right? If they don't have to throw that many passes, they're not going to throw that many passes. You look at Western Kentucky, threw 9. South Florida, 26. Wisconsin, 17. Vandy, 24. South Carolina, 23. So in 5 times, he has gone 26 passes or under. The only 2 times he's cleared the 30.5 pass attempts line was against Georgia. We saw that. We know what happened in that game. That was 41-34. Through 33 times. And then last week against Tennessee with the vicious defense that we've talked about quite a few times on the show already, he was forced, because of the script, they were behind. They lost 24-17 to throw the ball 45 times. Let me tell you something. Against this Missouri team, they are not going to be throwing the ball 31 times. You're going to be a 30.5 on the pass attempts line. I just think, like you said, there's not going to be much offense coming out of Drew Pine anyways. You don't have Nate Noel. You got their one running back. This team has been incredibly inconsistent. I know that they only have 1 loss, but look at the teams they played. Buffalo, BC, Vandy, Massachusetts, Auburn. Those are the teams they've beaten. Throwing Buffalo and Murray State. Like, there hasn't been a competent, potent offense they've dealt with. Even Texas A&M. Texas A&M went and hung 41 points on them. They're not doing that to anybody else. I just have a hard time believing that Alabama will be in a position where they have to throw the ball that much, I think you see that classic script, clear under 30.5 passing attempts, Jalen Milroe.
Yeah, that's a good angle with the 17-point favorite there, the other offense being feeble. And then even the constitution of Missouri's defense, and the pass defense in particular, Missouri's pass defense is number 10 in success rate, but it's 103rd in passing explosion. And Milroe certainly likes to throw deep, but if you hit two, three deep shots on Missouri for the quick touchdowns, that we're not going against the passing attempt number there. That's not a dink and dunk offense. And Missouri's pass defense is better at defending the dink and dunk. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I think you see the deep throws there. The yardage may or may not be there depending on those deep throws, how they get there. But yeah, I agree with you. I think the under on the passing attempts for Milroe is good. I wouldn't have any choice also but to lean with Gene in this game with Alabama. There's no way I'm taking Drew Pine and Tuscaloosa. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
Get out of here. Yeah, you just absolutely can't do it. Missouri, we mentioned they lack the explosion element in the passing game. They might lack everything in the passing game today going to Pine. And then the pass defense, you allow the explosive passes. That is what Alabama does. They also issues giving up long runs as well. So could we get a couple long Milroe runs in this game? Missouri, well, the overall run defense is good, 86th in yards per successful rush allowed, and yards per carry after contact, 115th for Missouri. Maybe we get some broken Jalen Milroe out of the pocket, broken plays. Now we break a tackle. Now we're running second, third level. I like Alabama in this game. The reason I'm not more, like one of my official plays or anything is just because where that number has gotten, but totally agree with the market and getting that thing up to 17. Like, I mean, what are you going to do? Who's out here taking points with Missouri and Drew Pine? All right, boys, let's open up the mailbag for the first time today. Our friend Snook Slayer asks us,
what's up, Snook?
Asks us, sad, pathetic Troy versus Arkansas State. What say ye experts? I'm gonna kick this one off because in the 50-team league that Mr. Froton is in with me, my starting quarterback is Jalen Raynor. One of my starting running backs is Jaquez Cross, and I picked up Arkansas State's defense to go with the Troika in this game. I like Arkansas State quite a bit. Ever since Troy lost Goose Crowder, one of our favorite names in college football, their offense wasn't good as is. It is legitimately one of the, what would you say, 4 or 5 worse in the FBS at this point without Goose Crowder? Yeah. Froton, like somewhere like around, yeah. And Arkansas State has shown in recent weeks, now that they're not playing the Colossuses of early September, that they get back on track. Like last year, they started out slow when they were playing the tough opponents. Raynor took over. Once they got into Sun Belt play, they started slapping around these bad teams. I think they're going to slap around Troy here, just like they slapped around Southern Miss last week. It's what my 50-teamer matchup depends on this week, so I'm putting my money where my mouth is with that. Did you guys have any other, Gene or Froton, you have any other thoughts on Arkansas State, Troy?
First off, anytime I hear Thor using Russian and the term troika, that is a Russian word, Thor. What's going on? We're in America, buddy. That being said, Troy, what's interesting about Troy, John Summerall, head coach, leaves Troy, goes to Tulane. And what their core competency was, like what their identity was for years, was their pass defense. The Troy pass defense was a blanket. Like you didn't mess with Troy's pass D last year. This year, 133rd with a 71.4% completion rate allowed. That is pathetic. And in no uncertain terms, that is pathetic. So, with the passing slanted offense for Arkansas State led by Keith Heckendorf, I have a hard time believing that Troy is going to be able to stop that offense. Listen, neither of them can play D particularly well, but like Thor said, Troy cannot play offense particularly well, and they're on, second, third string quarterback at this point. There's too much unsettled questions for me about Troy for me to back them.
That was one of the weirdest hires of the offseason when Troy hired Parker from Notre Dame. You can always tell when it's a terrible hire when the school you're taking the guy from is like, awesome, thank you. Because Notre Dame, they went from an offensive
we were about to fire him anyway.
Exactly. Everybody, I mean, they didn't like, the guy didn't have good offenses, and you swapped him out for Mike Denbrock. Now,
for Denbrock. Welcome back, Denbrock. Come back.
The guy who led one of the most explosive college offenses we've seen in the last decade last year with LSU. Tough scene there. I don't know what Troy's doing. They don't have any talent. Troika, Froton.
Troika.
I'm going to be laying the points there with Arkansas State against Troika in that one.
Comrade.
Carlos Javier says, Good morning, Carlos. Any thoughts on Memphis minus 17? Thank you. Boys, do you have any thoughts on the Memphis Tigers today?
Yeah, I think we had a few people asking about Memphis as well.
We got some Memphis backers in the chat.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think a lot of people are taking last week's game versus Navy and going, well, if Navy did that, Memphis, but Memphis plays a different style of game. A lot more passing involved in Memphis's game. What Navy's able to do is kind of bludgeon you, and then you get all enamored with the run, and then they hit you with some passes over the top. I think it's one where Memphis has an opportunity to take care of business, but I don't think it'll be necessarily as easy as it looked last week for Navy, because they just play a different style of game. And I think last week the game script played out, and these service academies just overwhelmed these teams, especially when it's similar to equal talent out there. They're just able to overwhelm them with the way in which they play the game.
Yeah, this one, the live line, what do we got for a live line in that one?
It's 20, I believe, right now. 20.
Okay.
Let me double check again.
Hosting the fighting Bip Pogies of Charlotte.
I
mean, my system's right around where this line is. I'm seeing, let's see. Yeah, 17 and a half. Yeah, in the market. My line on that one was Memphis minus 19.6. So I guess now that it's come down a little bit, it was at 18 and a half a couple of days ago. So coming down, the fighting Biffs getting some support in the market. You love to see that. They have been doing some stuff this year, but Memphis, you figure they come out firing here. But yeah, not a play for me. Next one, Mike Huseman, our buddy.
What's up, Mike?
Asks us Tulane. By the way, Mike just loves Ted Hurst. Speaking of that 50-teamer team, he picked up Ted Hurst on free agent after the first week. And for those out there that don't know, Gene coached Ted Hurst in high school. Ted Hurst now, Georgia State, their top receiver. And Huseman he talks to me all the time about friggin' Ted Hurst. I'm like, enough with Ted Hurst, Huseman. Tulane is -8 at North Texas in an important AAC game. What are your thoughts on that? I have some, so I'll jump in right away. I like North Texas in that game. North Texas, the offense, ridiculous. I got it at 8.5 earlier this week. My line on this game is Tulane -5.2. I love North Texas. You love the offense. The defense is rancid, so it's one of those fun teams. They're always getting in the shootouts. I think they match up well in this game. The teams that are lopsided like that, where it's like one good thing, one bad thing, they're the funnest teams to handicap because it can be, it's matchup specific. It's like Dana White says, like styles make fights. Mm-hmm. And I think this is going to be a good fight for North Texas in a game that they potentially have to win here. North Texas, 41 or more points in all 5 games this season that it has played against G5 opponents. And Tulane, they have a strong defense overall, but the issue with Tulane's defense here, now, if you were stacking all the G5 defenses, it would be up there. It wouldn't be the best, but it would certainly, acquit itself well. But the kryptonite of that defense is allowing explosive runs. They're 113th in yards per successful rush. North Texas's offense is number 3 in yards per successful rush. So you have this defense that gets gouged for explosive runs all the time. Despite being a good defense, they're able to be a good defense despite this bugaboo. And you have on the other side, one of the best teams in the nation at ripping off explosive runs, and they run it hyper tempo, and they just pick at your weaknesses mercilessly. You can have all kinds of issues with North Texas's defenders and their defensive coaching staff. It's hard to have any qualms with that offensive system and the way they play there. They're putting points on the board. And even against, on paper, if you were just looking at it from the treetops, I think maybe then you'd be like, oh, could Tulane stop this team? Based on you get more granular, the specific strengths of that North Texas offense and the very few, but couple pronounced weaknesses within that profile of Tulane's defense. I think North Texas is going to get their points in this one too. And when North Texas is getting their points, they force you to play their game, which is now it's a track meet. And you have to put points back on the board. You have to respond to the fire that we just gave you. I don't see how Tulane prevents them from running the ball effectively. I'll take the 8.5 points. I think North Texas is live. Gene or Froton, do you guys have any plays on that game?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Froton.
Oh, sorry, brother. So yeah, to Thor's point, North Texas, number 1 in ISO PPP, which measures the magnitude of explosive plays, is hitting the over 86% of the time, and they never have conservative overs. Trust me on that. Yeah. Leading the nation, 14 drives per game. And lastly, the last data point, 12.5 points per game. They are averaging that they are going over their game total by 12.5 points per game. It should tell you all you need to know about this team. They don't care about playing defense at all. And on the other side with Tulane, they're actually 57%. So, 4-3 to the over as well. These are teams that can score. These are teams that are going to be, going up and down the field. And with Tulane, while they play at a fairly slow pace, and they do a good job of suppressing pass explosiveness, overall, 103rd in ISO PPP, 113th in explosiveness allowed for Tulane. That plays right into North Texas's hand. I think you're going to see points. I like the over.
Yeah, me too. By the way, yeah. I love the over in this game. I got it early in the week at 68. It's at 70. I still love it.
Just keeps going.
If you look at what North Texas does, I think you hit it perfectly right there, Thor, when you said they make teams play their game. It's that super hyper tempo stuff. It gets people all frazzled. And if you don't have a like level-headed, calm coach, you're going to just get caught up in the in that adrenaline of how fast the game is going, especially if you're finding success early. And I think Tulane, after last week having a bunch of drops that should have been touchdowns, not putting up the 40-plus points that they have been putting up for the past 3 or 4 weeks, I think you see them very focused on being better on offense this week, which is going to lead to a shootout. Bang, 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 put them in. It's going over 70 because every North Texas game versus a decent opponent goes over 70.
Yeah, 1,000%. And once that other team, they realize like early on, like, oh, okay, we can't play our normal game. We have to play like this team wants us to play. That's where you start to see some of the mistakes. I mean, the North Texas defense is not good, but one thing it can do, if you're getting more aggressive than you should be in your passing game, or you're going outside of your comfort zone, they can flip the field on you. And then they'll score again quick, and now you're even more. What do they say? Desperation is a stinky cologne. By Super Troopers. So yeah, that's. I think North Texas live in that one. I agree with you guys on the over of that one. Let's go to our next set of games quick, and knock these 3 out quick, and then we're going to get back into the mailbag and bring up Mike Bainbridge as we do. So people out there, player prop questions, DFS questions as well. When we bring up Bainbridge, we'll dive deep into those, and we'll dive back into the mailbag when we do so. But we wanted to knock out 3 other games before the top of the hour, beginning with Texas that didn't acquit himself well recently, traveling to America's team, Vanderbilt today. This line is up to, I think, 7, or I'm sorry. Let me rephrase. Down to 17.5. It was up closer to 20. This thing's dropping. So Texas at Vanderbilt. Gene, with that said, at 17.5, who do you like in this one? You like America's team to be the darling again, pull off a stunner, or keep this one close, or Texas to go a ticked off Texas team to stomp Vanderbilt in this game?
Yeah, before last week, I would have said maybe Vanderbilt had the chance to do something. And I don't know if last week was a trap game or whatever you want to call it, but when you're Vanderbilt and you're playing the worst, scoring defense in America, and you can't put up points, that's a really, really scary sign for me, especially when you're allowing them to score a little bit more. You're going to have a really ticked off Texas team that probably got on the road early. They shut off all of the noise. They got back to what they wanted to do. They wanted to kind of circle the wagons, if you will. I think they're going to be really upset. They're going to come in there flying around, flying high. I think they blow out Vanderbilt today.
Okay. Interesting. Froton, thoughts on the game or do you have any props on it?
Yeah, I do have a prop on it. Let's look at Quinn Ewers. As we know, last time we saw Quinn Ewers, he was shuttling between himself and Arch Manning, getting pulled, and then Manning underperforming, and then coming out and, continuing to underwhelm against Georgia last game. But, here he is. He gets the nod again, despite a lot of sort of conjecture in the press. There's rumors he might sit out. There's rumors, he might not start. Is Arch going to get reps? I think we do see reps on Arch. How many? We don't know, but I think we get a couple of drives. If you're going to say Texas is going to have, 10, maybe 11 drives, Arch maybe gets a couple, and doesn't even factor in what if he underperforms again. It's not like Sarkisian's going to sit there and baby him. Like he's going to try Arch. Why wouldn't you give it a go? They don't have the luxury of playing games here against Vanderbilt, a plucky Vanderbilt team. Like they can't afford another loss. If he isn't getting it done, they're going to go to Arch. And at the same time, even without that, you look at the last 4 games. All right. Georgia, even though he threw the ball 43 times, 211 yards, 199 against Oklahoma, 185 UTSA, 246 Michigan, right? He's only beat his 249.5 number that you're seeing out there one time. That was Colorado State. Threw for 260 and a 52-0 blowout. Like, look, we don't know how many reps he'll get. We got to expect Arch will get some as well. I'm taking the under 249.5 passing yards due to all the conjecture surrounding the quarterback position with Texas. I just can't trust it. Can't take that over.
That's fair. Yeah, for me, I would have to take the points with Vanderbilt if I bet this one. We've seen this movie before with Vanderbilt and chipping away, and Texas, their pass defense is real good. This is the one thing they were doing well against Georgia for a while there. The run defense has become a little bit leaky. ETN was more effective running there maybe than we had projected. Other teams have been able to run on them. And, when you lose 2 top 40 NFL draft interior defensive linemen, your run defense typically tends to go down. Texas 64 success rate, 86th opportunity rate. You got Pavia and crew there. We'll see. Vanderbilt, their defense is bad. So certainly you can see a scenario where Texas just starts to pile it on. But I'd be remiss if I had to fade Diego Pavia. Boys, 2 other ones. We got to go quick on these so we can bring on Bainbridge at the top of the hour. And we can go real quick on this one. Florida State and Miami. I just got a kick out of this one with Florida State being so down. And now you travel to Miami. This line was 21, I believe, when I saw it earlier. Let's see if we've had any movement on that this morning. We're at still 21 around the market. Gene, who do you like in that one?
I like Miami, and it pains me to say it because at the core of my growing up, I'm a Florida State fan, I guess, if I'm still even a fan of any one team anymore. But yeah, they're just not good. They're not good. They've got a lot of questions in a lot of places. And Miami has not only something to play for, but they have the recruiting and the bragging rights of Florida. They want to be able to sweep the state. And this is their opportunity to not only do it, but do it in style. I think that Florida State will be overwhelmed. I don't think that they've performed well at all this year. I liken it to maybe like a SMU who kind of stomped all over them. I think Miami goes in there and blows the doors off Florida State pretty early, to the point where you might actually see a backup quarterback in here at some point.
Well, yeah. And yeah, Florida State last week, they tried to bring in Luke Cromhook. Was he 5-star? High 4-star?
Luke Cromhook.
Pretty darn close.
He's from Savannah. A true freshman from Savannah.
Fourth ranked. Oh, did you coach?
No, I didn't. I didn't coach him. I didn't coach him, but I coached against him.
Oh, okay. Yeah. He was brought in last week. 4th ranked quarterback in this past class was Cromhook. But you can't blame him. I mean, like, true freshman out there, like, probably not ready. I don't think Brock Glenn is ever going to be ready, though, and unfortunately. And FSU right now, 96 SP plus offense. I think where the bigger problem there is for FSU, your breadth of skill talent, your quarterback play is bad, etc. But the offensive line has also been terrible. 131st in yards before contact, dead last in the FBS in pressure rate allowed. Miami's defense certainly is not as good as its offense. Miami is the best offense in America, but the defense for Miami creates havoc. So I think we're going to get negative plays there with Florida State and some turnovers. Froton in a game. Yeah, you're going to see turnover. You're going to see negative plays. I think the water is going to start to reach the chin real quick on Florida State in that game. And Miami, they're a team that's incentivized to, was it Joaquin Phoenix and Gladiator with the thumb, with everybody. I think real quick, Cristobal walks out and gives the thumb down, and it's just on there. Froton, in a game where the game script projects to get out of hand pretty quick, is there any props to look at here real quick, or is this a stay away there?
Gosh, it's the same prop that we've been looking at all season long, and it hits every single week. And that's simply, will Cam Ward throw over 300 yards again? He's currently lined at 311 on Sleeper, which is a pretty nice line. You see in 320s out there, FanDuel, at the domestics. But I would say that 311 and at the parlay markets, Fliff as well, you can get it at that, is a darn good line. He's cleared that every single game so far this year. The lowest was 319, and that was last week. And against a Florida State team who last year beat up Miami pretty good. And if you parse words by head coach Mario Cristobal's intentions here, he wasn't too happy about that beating that FSU laid down during the midst of their undefeated run. And I think that a toll is coming due. I think you see Miami put it on, keep it on, and keep the metal, the pedal pressed to the metal. You're going to get an over 311.5 for Cam Ward today.
And that's jumped up 318 right now at Underdog. That thing is shooting up. I even saw they took it off the board for a second, when it goes like they faded or whatever. But yeah, hard to go against that. Miami, they're with the playoff coming up, the committee and all this sort of stuff, and the seeding there. I think that they're going to actively look to drop the hammer when they can. And this is an all-time opportunity for that. Boys, one last game, and then we'll get Gene's FCS play of the day, and then we'll bring up Bainbridge. We only got a couple minutes for this last one. Texas A&M hosting LSU. This line has come down to A&M minus 1.5 right now. I'll kick this one off, and then we'll kick it to Gene and go around. My line on this game is A&M minus 1.5. I took LSU plus 3.5 on Sunday. Obviously, I like that ticket with where it's going now. Even with where that line is now, I think I would just do the money line on LSU, right around even money there. I love the way that Garrett Nussmeier has been playing, and I think the constitution of A&M's defense, I think LSU is going to have some success passing the ball here. And if they can, assuming that they have some offensive success, that's where you force A&M out of their comfort zone, and they have to get more aggressive on offense. I like this matchup for LSU, and for that reason, I'm going with the Tigers. Gene, do you agree or disagree?
Yeah, I agree, and we talked about it before, and I'll say it again. Anytime a home team's getting a -1, that means that everyone thinks that the away team's going to win, right? And so that's really what it comes down. Anytime I see a spread hits like that, it's automatic for me. I'm taking the underdog money line, get a little bit of that money back. I like the Tigers here.
Froton, anything in the prop market?
Yeah, I do. Last week, running back Caden Durham, true freshman sensation. Arguably, this has been a decent running back class. I think he's probably the best freshman running back in the country right now in terms of what we've seen from him. Last week against Arkansas in a 34-10 victory, 21 carries, 101 and 3. Previous game against Ole Miss, like his first time really starting, 12 carries, 37 yards. Point being, we have seen John Emery go down. We've seen Josh Williams, the old hand in the room, be marginalized. He's barely even a factor last game. Caden Durham has taken over the clear, undeniable RB1 role. And LSU can't afford, any more losses. They have to keep going here. And they have been incredible since their opening week loss to USC. Unbelievably, you're seeing Caden Durham at 11.5 rush attempts right now. He had 21 last game. What do you think is going to happen here? You think they're not going to try to run the ball? They're not going to try to keep that Texas A&M pass rush off of Doug Nussmeier? They have to run the ball if they want to be successful.
Over on Durham attempts was 11.5, you said?
11.5 rush attempts. He literally had 10 more than that last game. Like, it's just, you can't let this go by the boards. That is an absolute smash play. Congratulations to all of you who can get that in.
Love it. Gene, your FCS play of the day.
Yeah, and so start the clock because there's a lot of really, really good FCS action out there. And I want to make sure that people understand, like, I don't think Vegas does a great job. I don't think the odds makers do a great job of putting these things together. Usually it's an over-exaggeration or an undersell on people. Dayton is playing Morehead State today. Morehead State has 5 wins. I think 4 of them are against teams that are not FCS level teams. They're against like D2 and NAIA teams. Dayton is the class of the Pioneer League this year. If you don't know, the Pioneer League used to be the only FCS league that did not have scholarships. And so they have their own little kind of ecosystem that they've existed in there. But Dayton has kind of been the class of it for a while. They've fallen off some with other teams coming on, but they're back this year. And they're probably the best team in that conference. The line on it is 13.5. It's a great one. You might want to go there. But I'd be remiss to tell you, North Dakota State coming off of a big win over South Dakota State, which ended up being a low-scoring game, which I did not predict. North Dakota State is taking on Murray State. And yes, they're on the road to Murray State. But Murray State, anytime they play somebody with a Dakota on it, they get blown out by 40-plus points. So, like, when they played South Dakota, I think it was a 50 burger. If they played North Dakota, they got beat by 40-something points. North Dakota State flying high off the South Dakota State game. They're going to come in. They're going to run roughshod all over Murray State. A Murray State team, by the way, that's been struggling with everybody that they play this year. They're just not a good team. And anytime you see an opportunity to like hit someone that's just really not that great, you got to just keep on pounding. I like North Dakota State minus, I think it's up to 34.5 right now. Minus 34.5 at Murray State. That is my FCS play of the week.
Love it. Chad, keep putting your questions in the box down there. We're gonna return to the mailbag here in a second. But before we do, we want to bring up Mike Bainbridge, godfather of college fantasy football. Mike Bainbridge of the CFF site. I think Froton had a beautiful CFF site t-shirt on this morning, repping it. Bainbridge does a really good job with DFS and, of course, college fantasy football. They have projections up on their site. So we love to talk about DFS with Mr. Bainbridge. Bainbridge, how you doing today?
Doing good. I'm always proud of Eric to support the site when I even work for the site and I'm not even wearing my dang shirt. So, thank you, Eric, for that.
Buddy. That's right.
Company man. We're gonna return to the mailbag here for a second. Then we're gonna get into the DFS talk. I just have to find my place with where we were. Let's see. I think, let's see. Jacob here has asked us, good morning, thoughts on Penn State, Wisconsin. I don't think I had anything on that game. Any of you guys have anything on Penn State, Wisconsin today?
I'll take them to get the job done. I don't think it's a sexy game, though.
Wisconsin's been playing a little bit better, but my line on that game, it's around Penn State -8. In the market right now, is that thing over 7 still? Let's see let me pull that up.
Well, I would imagine Eric has over Braden Locke interceptions.
Yeah, I got Penn State -6 earlier in the week. On our best bet, you can check that out on the bet tracker.
I think
as always on fantasy.
Agreed. Yeah,
and yeah, you could get the Braden Locke interception. It is we have to put the before it now because it is such a dependable thing. I got it at -155 earlier in the week, so that's not even that bad. 1.5 to 1 for the Braden Locke interception.
Let's see. Our next one, R. Stews asks us, great Saturday to you guys. Do you guys like a particular side in UL Monroe versus South Alabama game. Thanks as always. I think that's a fascinating game. Like, obviously off the grid there a little bit because UL Monroe's been playing way better with Brian
Really well,
Vincent,
yeah.
the guy that UAB should have hired, and instead they let him go after being the interim for 1 year, and they hired Trent Dilfer, which has turned into a disaster. Vincent has made UL Monroe you go back 20 years, one of the worst programs in the FBS. And he has, I believe, them on the precipice of bowl eligibility right now, right? Like Monroe is what, 5-1, 5-2?
Yeah, 5-1.
Yeah.
Forget about bowl eligibility. They're winning, baby.
One more and UL Monroe is going bowling. And the way that they're doing it, it's the run, meander back to the huddle, let the play clock run. And then on the other side of so it's, sort of paint dry offense, but on the other side of the ball, they're playing legit defense and they're really good situationally. Whereas South Alabama and that Major Applewhite, they've reversed the identity from the Kane Womack teams where now South Alabama just runs at hyper tempo and they have a explosive offense. They don't care at all about defense. So it's like, will the meandering team with the salty defense win this one, but they don't play good offense, or will the exact inverse type team pull this one off? Did you guys have any thoughts on that game?
Yeah, I think it has to do with, can South Alabama run the ball with the effectiveness that they should be against ULM? 122nd in rushing success rate, 133rd in stuff rate for ULM. But like you said, their pass defense is legit. 14th in EPA per dropback, 11th in QBR, raw QBR allowed, 16th in completion rate allowed. And we know that South Alabama, that's what they like to do. They want to go out and stress you vertically through the field. I think it's kind of a bad matchup for South Alabama, who's had it going pretty good over the course of the first season, the first half of this season. And with ULM, I can't believe they're the one who kind of took the shine off of James Madison, slowed down that James Madison offense, 19 points. And a lot of it has to do with, as you mentioned, 133rd in plays per second. They want to drag you in the deep end. I kind of like the under here.
We got some prop questions here. So let's see what the group thinks of these. A historical anomaly asks Riley Leonard rushing touchdown.
Yes.
Today against Navy. We're on the yes of that one.
I think that sounds pretty good. Yes. Yeah.
I think I would agree with that. DJ V says, good morning, gents. Hey, Froton, Braden Locke over a half interception. Your thoughts? Yeah. So someone was reading our mind with that one.
Yes. Bless that man. He knows. Yeah. DJ V way better than DJU for the record.
Yes.
ILO 7 and asks Cole Taylor over 28.5 against Arizona. Thoughts on that?
Oh, yeah. That's an interesting one. First off, Arizona, can you trust them? Can you trust them to do anything? I don't care if it's offense. I don't care if it's defense. I don't trust the Arizona Wildcats. That being said, with Cole Taylor, keep in mind, doesn't look like we'll probably have Garrett Green today. It looks like it'll be the Nico Marshall experience. And, I think that's probably bad news for West Virginia. Even though Green isn't the best thrower, I think they're probably likely to be playing catch up a little bit, at least against Arizona. Maybe. That's good for Cole Taylor. 4 out of 7 for 61 last game. 5 out of 7 for 55 the game before. You're going to put him at 27.5. You can't take an under in a game that I think it's probably likely they'll be behind. And Nico can't run as well as Green did. That's what they like to do with him. It wasn't his 55% completion rate. It was his ability to run the ball. I think you're going to see a little bit more on the passing side, which bodes well for Taylor. I will back the overplay. Yes.
And someone agreed with you.
Quiet, lady. Quiet.
Historical anomalies asks
Eli. She heard me, Mike.
Wow, yeah. Going nuts now.
Get Bruno. Why isn't Bruno taking care of that? Get him on.
Asks Eli Stowers, 3.5 receptions. Bainbridge, you have any thoughts on Eli Stowers? The receptions at 3.5?
I'd probably lean the over there. He leads the team in targets. I unfortunately took his under earlier in the week at 43.5. He was looking to be questionable. Now upgraded to probable. So I would like over 3.5 receptions, kind of middle of that play there.
Love it. Let's see. We got Devin Scott says, any props for the Ohio State guys? You guys like anyone in the Ohio State game?
Yeah, I like, I put out earlier this week, Carnell Tate at 30.5 receiving yards. I mean, other than his last game, he's been absolutely killing that. He got one catch the game before, and it's like all of a sudden that became his baseline. He's been rocking that week in, week out, other than last week. And I think you'll see them go back to him again. He plays every single receiving snap. Last game, the three guys, Smith, Book, and Carnell Tate played every single receiving snap. No other receiver even gotten a snap. I think that bodes well for a bounce back for Mr. Carnell Tate. I think he's up after I put it out. I think he's in the mid 30s. I'll still back that over.
The one that I did in that game was I went over on the Raiola passing yards earlier this week. I thought they dropped it too low. I don't know if I'm gonna be able. I'll just pull up the current number on that is 175.5. I think I had gotten it at 160 something.
Yeah, I think that's where it opened. Yep.
They're gonna throw. I mean, like they're gonna throw, and they're gonna keep railing for the whole game. I mean, like it just becomes a volume thing. It is what that one is. So yeah, I was happy to take that one. Let's see we got a couple more props DFS here. If I can find my spot. Carl, let's see. No, I already did that one. Let's see. Let's see. XJMBX5S says Vanderbilt covers at home as big dog between two ranked teams. Strong trends on this play. Would love to hear your thoughts. Went over this one a little bit earlier, but I think Gene and I were had opposite leans on that one. But I would take the points with Vanderbilt, but Gene likes the blowout with the Longhorns there. Huseman, our friend Huseman asks us, UTSA -10 at Tulsa seems like a lot of points for an inconsistent team. What do you guys think about that one? Anyone have thoughts on that game?
Yeah, Tulsa hasn't been playing well this year. That's why, those lines end up like that. Tulsa usually is, especially once they get into conference play, they usually end up being a decent team, but this year has not been the case for them. They've been down, they've been inconsistent offensively, they've been spotty, giving up big plays defensively. I'm not playing that game, but I can see why these teams are getting a little bit wider spreads versus Tulsa, because Tulsa just hasn't been good, or at least as good in conference, or when they're going up against similar talent as they've been in the past.
The historical anomalies mentioned in the chat, I was just going through there, that Sleeper, according to our friend Historical Anomalies, has a 2 times multiplier on the cross over 2.5 receptions. I guess cross, with Arkansas State, that game we were talking about before against Troy, they've been using Rayner likes cross. They throw it to cross. So I think I might take that 2 times multiplier there. Boys, let's jump into the DFS, and then we'll start out with DFS, and then we'll get into props, ones that we haven't hit yet. So Bainbridge, thinking about the props in this one, we'll start out with the core build plays out there. So for anyone out there, core build type plays today.
Yeah, I think we start with Mekhi Hughes, and kudos to DraftKings for including Tulane and North Texas on the main slate, because usually they'll stick with P4 teams. They'll throw in Iowa versus Minnesota or what have you, that type of matchup. So we're going to get a high scoring G5 type game here, and I'd love to start with Mekhi Hughes at Tulane, facing a North Texas defense that really doesn't defend the run or pass very well. They just gave up a 50 burger to Mario Anderson from Memphis last week. North Texas did. So we'll stick with Mekhi Hughes as one of our core builds. And then another similar running back, Taj Brooks. I mean, you get death, taxes, and Taj Brooks getting 25 attempts per game. That's just what happens with Texas Tech. And he's going to get 25 carries again. So I want my core builds. I want guaranteed volume. I say that every single week. And you're going to get that with both Mekhi Hughes and Taj Brooks.
Love it. Yeah. I mean, even though, was talking before, I like North Texas in that game, but yeah, what a matchup for Mr. Hughes. North Texas does not tackle well. We'll put it that way. So like those ones, mid-tier builds, Bainbridge in DFS today.
I'm sure this is one that you guys have covered already. Trey Wisner at Texas is 4,800, probably 2K too low this week against Vanderbilt. I think it's established at this point. Trey Wisner, RB1. Jadon Blue is back to his third down pass catching role. 15-0 in terms of carries last week against Georgia. So I really like that price tag on Wisner, obviously. And then Evan Stewart. I don't know why he's still at 4,200, but take advantage because he is now playing like that first round CFF draft pick that we all expected prior to the year. The one hesitation with Stewart, just the one, is that his primary production the last handful of games have come with Trayshawn Holden out of the lineup primarily because of the spitting incident against Ohio State. So very curious just to see how that looks now with Holden, who is all but likely going to play the whole game this week. But again, you're 4,200. You can't beat it for a talent like Evan Stewart.
No, certainly can. And yeah, he's the ingratiation into the offense big time here last few weeks. The beginning of the season, they were figuring that out on offense. But yeah, they have that extra element now with Evan Stewart. Bainbridge, the arguably the most important thing about DFS, finding those, especially college DFS, finding those big bargain values there and playing them against the field. Who are your favorite diving into the dumpster bargain type plays today?
Yeah, if you don't want to go with Mekhi Hughes, I think you could go with quarterback Darian Mensah at Tulane. He's only 5K. And this guy is just blew up onto the scene, especially earlier in the year. I remember Louis Riddick kind of compared him to Jordan Love, that type of quarterback. North Texas, as we just said, they can't defend the run or the pass. 4 quarterbacks have scored at least 23 fantasy points against North Texas this year. 3 have scored 30 plus. So if you do not have Mekhi Hughes in your lineup, I would definitely have Darian Mensah as one of your, maybe the super flex or a cheap bargain at quarterback. And then another one, and this is interesting, kind of with Evan Stewart, like I really want to see how this dynamic works this week for Mississippi. But has Caden Lee kind of taken over a starting role over Antwain Wells? It appeared that way. I think they moved Watkins outside, Jordan Watkins, and Caden Lee inside in the slot.
13 targets for Caden Lee last week.
Yeah, yep. He's 3,700. So you're not obviously spending a high price for that kind of production. And I think it's good for our Antwain Wells under prop plays for season long if you took any of those.
A fun fact on Caden Lee, he currently leads the SEC in percentage of explosive receptions. Second, number 2 is Ryan Williams. So that kind of puts into perspective the rarefied air we're talking about with Mr. Lee and his explosive potential.
Love it. Let's go. Let's do the round robin with player props, and we'll toss out any other gentlemen. Out there in the audience, get your sports books open. This is the rapid fire segment of our show. So we'll kick it off with Froton here at quarterback. We've talked about different player prop bets today. Are there other quarterback plays that we have not you haven't mentioned yet on the show that you're on?
Well, I am disappointed that we won't be getting to see Brady Cook, and we can't take his under 207.5 passing yards. I was all ready to do it. I mean, it was queued up, but unfortunately, somebody up there doesn't like me today. With QB props, we have the tried and true Thor. I don't want to let you down.
Yeah, please don't.
He's been so good to us. No offense. I understand that Kurt Vonnegut Writing School is where you were educated. And thankfully, we're here. Cade McNamara, 147.5 passing yards. They raised his passing yardage after last week. He went from 130. Now we're at 147. Stop it. Just stop it. 147.5 under. Cade McNamara, as is customary.
Oh, I always got to fade the Iowa.
Don't blame me.
Yeah,
I'm not the one calling that O.
Yeah, no.
It's going to be Caleb Johnson, another 30 carries. You know how he goes.
No, that is absolutely how it goes. Bainbridge, any other, I suppose we didn't have it before, but quarterback prop plays today that you wanted to shout out?
Just a question, Eric. Where can you get that McNamara line besides Sleeper? Is it available anywhere? Do you know?
Yes. Okay. You gotta put me on the spot.
I think it was just the parlay market, but either way,
parlay markets it is. I
Yeah.
want it anywhere I can get it.
Yeah.
Essentially. But I mean, you're gonna incentivize us. We will talk, and I'll get you the.
Yeah, I didn't have a ton of quarterback plays this week, but one I kind of liked that I found this morning, I believe it was at MGM, is Jalen Daniels. I kind of like him over 197.5 passing yards. It's an elite Kansas State run defense, so I think they're going to have to throw it a little bit more. And the last 2 weeks, Kansas has started to throw the ball downfield a little bit more. You know, it's really the Luke Grimm show. Kind of the first month of the year, but now they're starting to force the ball a little bit downfield. So he's at 206 and 207 at some of the other sites there, but I think you can get him at 197.5 still at MGM. So I would check that. I like the over there.
Finally, someone on the panel that respects the quarterback play at my alma mater's, Froton.
Yeah, absolutely. And for the McNamara, it's 147.5. Prize Picks, Sleeper, Underdog across the board. It's 147.5. You can get in any of those.
Okay. We'll go to I mentioned Raiola. The over on Raiola before is probably, my favorite one of some of these other quarterback ones. I also, Froton, one of our favorite things to do is go over on the interceptions. I like the over on Jake Retzlaff today. I do a bunch of these interception ones, but I think UCF is going to run out to a lead there, literally, and then BYU is going to turn one-handed because UCF's run defense is really good. You're going to throw into the UCF pass defense, which is not nearly as good. However, I think because of the volume, you can project especially in a game script that I think is going to flip against BYU. It's just going to be pass. I like the interception there. Moving to running backs, Froton, any other running back player prop bets for you today?
Yeah, sure. We'll go over to we did Jaden Thomas. Actually, you know what? Most of my stuff is gonna be wide receiver stuff from here on.
Okay. Yeah. Bainbridge, running back stuff. Any running back plays today in the prop market?
Yeah, I really like the Indiana backfield this week. If you can get Tyson
Same
Lawton,
page, baby.
Yeah,
Same
Tyson Lawton
yeah.
over. He started 41.5. I think most places
40 and a half actually.
40 and a half. You can get him at probably 44, maybe somewhere. Still, he's probably in the high 40s now. Still like that over. But then I was looking this morning. Justice Ellison is at minus 135 to score a touchdown on FanDuel. He scored a touchdown in every single game this
every
year.
game.
So,
yeah, and you have the backup quarterback in, and you're facing this awesome pass defense. It's going to be on the ground, and especially around the goal line. Why would you be like, oh yeah, Taven Jackson, here's your opportunity to throw at these awesome cornerbacks that Washington has. Like, so give them the opportunity to flip the field. I love that one with the Ellison touchdown as well. We're same page, that whole thing, Bainbridge, the Indiana running backs. Those are two of my favorite overs on the rushing. I agree with you also on the touchdown for Ellison there as well. Just because of the way that I think that game script is going to shake out. The wide receivers, Froton, you mentioned you have a bunch of them. Let's run through them rapid fire quick.
Yeah, let's go with Hakeem the Dream Williams, under 27.5 passing yards. Speaking of dreams, there it is, under 27.5. Yeah. Anytime I get the opportunity to take Mr. Williams, you have to respect it. Dropped a pretty easy pass last game, and then they pretty much just said, "What are we doing here?" Which is true. I don't know what they're doing. So thank you. I believe we've mentioned Evan Stewart, 56.5 receiving yards. Yep, give it to me. Let's go. Maybe I lose, but I'll take that, and I will wear that on me. I also like where are we? Tyler Warren, Penn State. I know he's a tight end, but he's a pass catcher. Listed at 4.5 receptions over at Sleeper. As we know, the last time he took the field was against USC. He caught 17 of 20 passes. I think against Wisconsin, they are going to have somewhat of a competitive game. They're going to have to use him, and he is the only thing they can do throwing the ball. I mean, he's the only one. Maybe Harrison Wallace, but I mean, it's the Tyler Warren show. I think we see that continue to rock and roll. So that's what I'm on there for the wide receivers.
Bainbridge, any receiver or receiver plays for you today?
Yeah, on the prop or on the parlay market, they are still listing as of at least as an hour ago or so. CJ Daniels at 48.5. He's questionable. So they have plenty of options in a pass catcher for LSU. So I'll take the under on anybody that is questionable and they're still lining them. And then unfortunately for my Wolverines, I will take Montori Foster over 41.5 receiving yards. And we've talked about it on previous shows. I know Froton hit the Zachariah Branch against Michigan a couple weeks ago. Michigan linebackers are thumpers. They cannot defend the middle of the field at all, slot receivers and tight ends. So I like Montori Foster in the slot there. I don't think Michigan State beats Michigan today just because it's in Ann Arbor, but I like them to keep it close. And I think Montori Foster goes over 41.5 receiving yards.
They got a puncher's chance. I mean, certainly everybody does against Michigan. I'm sorry, Bainbridge, but you can't complain because what is it? It's a decade.
We have an nanny.
After that. But Michigan State, they did that to Iowa. They made it harder for Caleb Johnson, and if you can't run, you're one of those offenses that can only run. Like that's where they can Michigan State can start to get frisky. I had a quick follow-up question for you, Bainbridge, on that one. Daniels being compromised, maybe out. We'll see, the game time decision type thing. LSU has all the weapons there. You mentioned fading Daniels. Are there guys where like you look at them and you're like, in a scenario where Daniels is out, or in a scenario where Daniels has the limited snaps, we're going to get more targets this way? I like one player or another with the rest of the allotment of pass catchers that they have there.
Yeah, I was looking at that. So the one game that CJ Daniels missed was against Ole Miss, and Kyron Lacey had 13 targets. So he would be a guy that I would kind of look for, or it seems like if CJ Daniels is out, that Kyron Lacey is going to be the kind of heavy target guy. My final play of the day will be the one. We'll cover that off later on in the show.
Yeah, I got one more too.
Please.
Another tight end, Trey Watson, tight end for Texas A&M. He's listed at 1.5 receptions on Bovada. If you take the under, you're actually getting plus 110 money. And that's important because Mr. Watson, he's caught 7 of 13 targets. He has only cleared the 1 reception mark one time all season. That was against Bowling Green. And since then, he has 2 drops out of 9 catchable passes. It's a 22% drop rate. And we just haven't seen him. 65% of the time, he is lining up in line. They just don't use him in the passing game very often at all. I just think with the clear trends being to the under, getting the plus money, you could take a speculative under 1.5 receptions on Trey Watson, tight end, Texas A&M.
We're about to get into our plays of the day and other plays that we missed or whatever. But I want to toss one other one at you guys that I popped in there earlier this week, and this goes into one of the plays that we didn't have time to get to today as far as the game goes. But I like Ja'Carri Brown, the new UCF quarterback. I like him over the rushing yards in the low 70s there. I like that over. And RJ Harvey, the running back, that thing is that rushing number now is like, I don't know, if you could play that with how high it is. But so I want to get your guys' take on that. But just like the thinking behind that, BYU, it's their pass defense that's good. BYU's run defense is not good. And now BYU is traveling all the way across the country to go to the bounce house for this one. Their defense, it's not the Constitution that you want to slow down UCF. And when UCF can just run, and then Malzahn, it's the hyper tempo. It's another one where they just start picking on your weaknesses. Did you guys, like, as far as Ja'Carri Brown, who just took over there, his rushing total, or Harvey, are you guys with me on that one?
Man, Harvey started out at 111, and which was, you look at it, you're like, did not stand for very long up there past the 120 mark. Yeah, absolutely. And I did have a lean on Ja'Carri Brown's over rushing yardage as well. It certainly is going to be over passing yardage. I know that.
One other one, and Froton, this is a guy that we've talked about offline, but LJ Martin for BYU. BYU had the backfield that was banged up, and now both the guys came back, and now you have a platoon situation. LJ Martin, just against Oklahoma State, he had 20 carries for 120 yards and 2 touchdowns. So his number now has been inflated to 70.5. That was also the BYU running back. That's also one that I faded. UCF shuts out the lights on usually. And BYU, I think they're going to really quickly toggle to the passing game. The game script's going to go like that. But you also have this split carry thing. So it's just difficult to envision LJ Martin getting to the amount of carries that it would be required to project him to breach 70 rushing yards against that good rushing defense. I mean, you'd have to project him for like 14 carries. And I don't think in this game, and of course, I think that UCF is going to win here. Now the line I saw it live is moved to UCF -2.5. So we flipped all the way the other way. I agree with the market on that one. Gene, just really quickly, was there any other plays that we didn't hit on before that you had in your card that you wanted to toss out for people?
Yeah. Just real quick, I'll run through them. New Mexico at Colorado State over 63 points. New Mexico likes to give up points. They also like to score. Colorado State does a really good job of exploiting weaknesses. I don't think they're the greatest team in the world, but they actually do a really good job when they figure out what a weakness is defensively. They'll just keep on like poking at it. So I can see that going over. Utah State at Wyoming over 58. I know Wyoming doesn't score, but Utah State scores, and Utah State loves to give up points to everybody. Colorado -6.5 versus Cincinnati. I know we didn't talk about it, but I think this is the time where Colorado says, hey, we're going to be players here, and they're going to get themselves bowl eligible today. I'll lay the 7, even if it jumps there with Colorado. Penn State -6. I talked about that earlier in the proceedings. Kent State at Western Michigan over 61. Kent State, one of the worst defensive teams in the country. Western Michigan looking like it might be part of the class of the MAC this year. I like that over 61 because Kent State will score. They're just going to give up all the points as well while they're scoring. Illinois +22 at Oregon. I think Illinois plays Oregon tough. I think they play Oregon tough. Oregon, does well, but against good teams, they're going to play a tough game. And I think Illinois is much better than people giving them credit for this year. That's all I really have with my plays that I've got over there. Make sure that you go to the bet tracker on FantasyLife to see all of our plays, everything that we put in throughout the week. That's where you can find it. Definitely go and check those out.
Yeah, it's a great point. And you can see the bets when we put them in. So some of these, when it's like, I got it at this number and now it's this number. We put Gene and we put them bets in right when we make them. So you can hit those lines when they're at the line that we're citing, as opposed to, this morning, one way to get ahead of it. And then also you use code Thor20, you get the premium there. And it's 20% off of it or whatever. I think then it becomes like $80 per year, but you get access to all the projections and all the systems and all the models we have on the back end. And as far as betting, it's very, very helpful. On Monday, my updated season-long win projections for every single team is my favorite thing to look at on that. But boys, let's get into our plays of the day. Bainbridge, let's kick it off with you. What is your favorite bet on the board today?
Yeah, you kind of alluded to it when you asked about the CJ Daniels situation with LSU, which that on the parlay market, that would be my top play, is going under on CJ Daniels. But at Bet Rivers, you can still get Mason Taylor at 34.5 receiving yards. He's jumped up to 40.5 at several places because of some of the injury issues with LSU. And Texas A&M really kind of struggled to defend the middle of the field in their previous matchups. Harold Fannin from Bowling Green went over 100 yards against the Aggies earlier in the year. Arlis Boardingham from Florida had his season high total against Texas A&M when he faced them. So again, that line's moving up closer to 40, so you can still get it at 34.5 at Bet Rivers.
And everyone thought they canceled Arlis. Joke's on them. Froton, your favorite play today?
Yeah, Robert Wool has the last laugh as always.
I knew you'd like that one.
The super agent, Arlis. Yeah, that being said, the producer, Paul, very upset with me today. Unfortunately, I gave out my best bet. I got so excited about Caden Durham over 11.5 rushing attempts that I gave it out during the game evaluation. So I'm going to apologize to everybody here. That is my best bet. In case you couldn't tell how excited I am, as mentioned, 21 carries last game, 12 the game before. He's completely usurped Caleb Johnson and Josh Williams in that backfield. So make sure you get a play on that over 11.5 rush attempts.
I also, we're just like children with this stuff outside in the playground, but I also have already given out my play of the day. But but just to underline it is Justice Ellison, the
I'll feel
Indiana
some
running
bad.
back. Yeah, over 56.5 rushing yards, and you get. I mean, so that would be my official one. But Bainbridge mentioned he loved the touchdown on that one as well, and I think both of us, I think the whole panel also likes that Tyson Lawton, even though that thing started at 40.5 rushing yards, now up into the mid to high 40s. Just, I mean, again, Washington. Oh, it's up to 50.5 now.
On
yeah,
Prize Picks, yeah.
I think even then, on Lawton, but officially for me, it's Ellison is the play of the day. Again, the Washington run defense is not good, and with the backup quarterback playing for Indiana and a backup quarterback who is objectively a better runner than the starter, Cignetti is no moron. He's the opposite of. He's one of the better coaches that we have in America. He knows the constitution of that Washington defense. He is going to lean that with his backup quarterback with the more mobility into the run game and attack that bad run defense. So I like all the rushing overs there. Boys, we did it again. We are moving in on kickoff, and so we have run out of time. For my co-hosts,
Hey, Thor,
yeah.
don't try to get him out of here. I haven't even given my play.
Oh, gee,
yet.
I'm sorry.
What are we doing around here? The people need their stimulus package.
They need it.
I'm so sorry. Here to give them the stimulus package. Yes, I know. Army is on a bye week this week, but Navy has been cashing as well. Here's the thing you got to remember, right? The stimulus package works in multiple ways. The first way is they just beat people, but then also they allow covers, right? Notre Dame has been playing better offensively. So I think there's a good chance that Notre Dame can come out and get up on Navy. However, Navy won't lose their constitution. Navy won't go away. They won't bow down. They won't all of a sudden get out of character because they know they have to stay that straight line. And ladies and gentlemen, when I tell you that Navy will put points on the board versus Notre Dame, you should believe me. When Notre Dame thinks that they have especially if Notre Dame gets out to a couple touchdown lead, right? Early, will their defense stay as locked in, as committed to stopping that offense as they do at the beginning? I say no. The longer this game goes, the better for Navy. There'll be points on both sides. Thor, I know you said you like the under, but I like the over in this game, especially as it keeps dropping down. Give me the Navy midshipmen and Notre Dame to go over 50 points for the Service Academy stimulus package to continue another week. You can put it on the board.
Yes. The stimulus package has been absolutely incredible. And anytime myself or anyone else has decided to stand on the tracks against Gene's military stimulus package, we have been run over subsequently on a Saturday. So maybe I'm taking my lean off on the total of that Notre Dame Navy game. Just forget that I said that. Hey, guys, with that, we have run out of time. Can't wait for the college football games today. Thank you for everyone out there that tuned in today. We'll be back same time, same place next week. For my co-host, Eric Froton of NBC Sports, the coach Gene Clemons, and our weekly special guest, Mike Bainbridge of the CFF site. I've been your host, Thor Nystrom. Enjoy the games, and let's go cash some tickets.